And Ryder and help me with this presentation. So when I go to a wine store, I know what I want. I want a good bottle of wine that's right for me. The problem is I don't know how to get it. I'm looking down this huge aisle. There's thousands of bottles of wine. There's colors, there's labels, there's some placards that maybe have a few sentences on them. But I really don't know what I'm looking at. A lot of this information is mostly meaningless to me. As it turns out, I'm not the only one with this problem. Millions of Americans have the same problem when they're buying wine. This weekend we talked to over 200 people in Austin, and very few of them, when they go to the checkout counter to buy that bottle of wine, really know what they're getting into. They're taking a gamble. They base their decision on the label, maybe a few sentences on the back, maybe the opinion of someone they've never met before, just telling them that they may like this bottle. And most of them really welcome advice. They don't want to take a gamble. They really want something that's right for them, and they want to be more sure about their decision. The problem is they just don't know how to get it. There are ways for them to get that information out there. There's expert reviews, there's wine magazines. So that means that someone liked this bottle, but is that bottle right for you? Our solution to this, imagine Pandora for wine. Adam's going to tell you a little bit about how that works.
Thanks, Will. So, Pick My Wine is a smartphone application. There we go. Smartphone application that uses existing product recognition technology in combination with a recommendation engine that's going to take an individual's unique preferences and pick their wine for them. So the way it works is all the user has to do is download this free application, take a bottle of wine, scan the barcode on the back, and it's automatically going to spit back to them a score on a scale of 1 to 100, indicating the likelihood that they would like that product. In addition to that, it's also going to give them a list of other products that are similar to that one in the event that that's already something they know they like. So, how does it make money? Well, we try to steer away from the traditional application revenue models with charging people for the app or advertising, and went with the white label concept. We want to target large warehouse clubs such as Sam's or Costco and charge them $1.95 each time somebody downloads this free service. So why target these people? They do a lot of things really well. They sell stuff very cheap. Where else can you buy a dozen motorcycle tires packaged together? But they don't make apps. They don't have the knowledge or the technical expertise to develop these products, especially something as sophisticated as a recommendation engine. So $1.95 is not just some number we picked out. It's actually the marginal profit that Costco makes on the average bottle of wine they sell. So the pitch is, all you have to do is sell one additional bottle to these customers because of our app, and it's paid for itself. Anything on top of that is gravy. So it would be 75 cents each time a new customer downloads our product, and then 10 cents per month is a licensing fee as long as they use it actively. So how much can an application really make? Well, based on our numbers and assumptions, and we base this based on being able to get one large store in our first year. In the very first year, we could generate revenue of over $400,000 with profits over $300,000. At a 5% growth rate, picking up new stores and other chains, by year 5, we could have over $800,000 in revenue with $600,000 in profit. We had several key assumptions. One is a 5% penetration rate, the before-mentioned 5% growth rate, and also about $100,000 in initial investment for legal fees and developing some of the database technology and kind of finalizing the concept that we've started this weekend. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Allie.
So he mentioned discount wholesalers, right? But we need to get more specific than that to really meet our goals of 5% penetration. So we picked Costco as a starting place. Why Costco? They have an astounding 33% market share. Wine sales, US, it's a big number. So we think that we might be able to have an impact there because they do have a pretty far reach. Secondly, they have a large enough selection of wines to create a little bit of confusion and indecision among a buyer, but they have a manageable enough amount that we think we can create a really powerful engine to make this work. And finally, they're a growing company. Their sales have been growing every year. So what's in it for Costco, right? That's probably the more important part. Well, Costco right now, they have great customers, but their customers want this application. We talked to 30 people today specifically about this idea, and 28 out of 30 people that we talked to said that they would not only download this app, but that they would use it. So we think that even though they're selling to consumers at the rate they are, we think that the gap that they're missing are those people who need a little bit more advice than the person that's a more confident wine buyer. And finally, this is a premium service opportunity. And I know that sounds like an oxymoron, premium and Costco. But what we're trying to say is within that big box environment, you're getting a customized experience, and we think that that has value to the consumer and also to Costco. So why is Pick My Wine better than any of the other apps you've seen out there? Well, first of all, we have a 100% hit rate. So when we're talking about that database integration, we're talking about making sure that every time you scan a bottle with our technology, you're going to get wine that is in that store that you can buy right that moment, and that's powerful. It was one of the #1 complaints we heard from other people. Secondly, Pandora-style recommendation engine. That's a really unique feature that nobody else is offering. Third, we have a streamlined user interface, and I know that sounds basic, but out of the apps that we checked out there, they were getting horrible reviews, and a lot of the customers that we talked to that used one of them said they hated the interface, and it was one of the reasons they didn't use it more often. And finally, we're looking for the overall best feature integration. There's enough people out there that have made mistakes, and we want to try to take it to the next level. So now, let's get to the fun part.
Yeah, let's take a look at it. We're going to switch over to our online demonstration version here. And go ahead and do view and then full screen. And scroll just a little bit. Okay. So we're going to analyze a particular situation where this application will be very useful. I am looking down the wine aisle, and I don't know what I'm looking at. I'm confused. So I pick up this wine. I picked it up from the label. Seemed like a good reason. But I can do better than that. I'm going to pick this wine. I'm going to have it in this hand. I'm going to pull my smartphone in this hand. And I'm going to start my app. Now, as soon as the app comes up, it's going to give me 3 options. It's going to ask me 3 questions. The first question, and the one that's going to apply to this situation, and the primary function of the app, is this wine in my hand, am I going to like it based on the wines I've had in the future? Secondly, this wine I have, I can catalog it so I can go back later, I can rate it, and I can remember in the application this is one I liked and why. And third, from the inventory in the store I'm in, recommend me a wine for ones I've liked before. Let's explore some wines, just like Pandora. So I want to answer the question, do I like this wine? Let's take a look. First thing it's going to ask me is it's going to ask me to scan the barcode for this wine, and it's going to turn my phone into a wine barcode scanner. Let's scan it. I looked up the UPC of the wine, found the information on it, and it gave me an 83%, a very strong recommendation that the wine I'm looking at right now is going to be a good match for me based on the wines I've had in the past. And I'm most likely going to buy this wine. Where does this number come from? Well, every time a user enjoys a wine that was picked up by this application, they have an opportunity to rate it afterwards. When they rate it, unbeknownst to the user, our recommendation engine is compiling the results and the attributes from the wine they just rated versus all the wines that they've rated in the past. What kind of attributes are we looking at? We're looking at the obvious things that the novice user may be familiar with, like what type of wine is it, Cabernet or Merlot? Something they may be familiar with is a geographical, where is it from? South African wine, Chilean wine, and more subtle things that perhaps a novice wine drinker may not know about. Like, is it an oaky wine? Does it have hints of licorice or strawberry? And we take these attributes and we compile that composite score to use to predict future wines. Now, an excellent feature about this application is the more they use it, the more wines they rate for themselves, the closer the recommendation engine gets to what their optimum wine is, and the better the recommendations are going to be in the future. So from there, let's take a look at some of the future growth opportunities for our business.
Okay, so where are we going to go from here? First, we think that there would be a great opportunity for our Paid for Professional edition, because this app that we've been discussing would be a free app. But secondly, we think that by being able to share with your friends, that we might be able to gain a lot of potential that way as well. And we also know that Costco, although it is everywhere, since we're talking about a white label model, we'd also be able to potentially market this to somebody like Specs that's regional, and then to a different place in Boston, a different place in North Carolina, so on and so forth. So that would provide some additional sales. But the big opportunity here is we're MBA students. I mean, we're not looking to create an application. We really want to create a business. And there's a lot of follow-on opportunities, I think, that will come from this. Other specialty products like microbrews, cheese, cigars. So that's really where we're going with this. And would like to ask for any questions that you may have at this time, and thank you so much.
When I first saw this, I was totally excited about it, and then you started going into the white label idea, and I was thinking your customers were going to be the vineyards and others. So tell me a little bit why you chose that and didn't go more like a that route.
We explored a lot of different revenue models over the course of this weekend. Ultimately, the white label concept solved a lot of the technical issues we were having, such as database, and some of the more complicated marketing things. A lot of the apps fail because they're not successfully marketed. With this, the marketing is being assisted by Costco or whoever's purchasing the app. So in the end, we felt the white label model provided the most value and the best opportunity for success.
Well, you know what wines are in Costco. Why do I have to go scan every bottle to find the top 10? Why don't you just tell me what the top 10 are?
This one.
I'll take that one. You don't necessarily have to scan it. I mean, when you would originally create your user profile, you would put in your preferences. And I think one of the great ideas about this is if you had a particular wine critic or somebody that you knew and trusted, or Costco thought they knew what the 10 best wines were, we would have that information integrated in here as well.
So we're going to tell you what the top 10
Yeah,
are.
I mean, you could certainly go that route, absolutely. But I think that through a lot of the people we talk to, I mean, it's kind of one of those things. You don't want to just pick whatever your friend says is the best wine, because you want to take something unique to their house for dinner. You want to, it's kind of like a connoisseurship. I see what you're saying, and there are definitely people that are going to want that top 10 feature, and we're going to have it.
They get the Wine Spectator magazine. I go to Costco, and they don't have half of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, which ones do you have? And I've got 100 on this magazine and 5,000 on this shelf, and I'm trying to put these two together.
Having it unique with Costco, we would be able to say, you know, which 10 were the best sold, and you could just go buy those if you wanted to make it that simple.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So is the idea here that Costco will have some sort of display saying, download this app on your iPhone now, and then you'll walk through their wine area, and then you'll download it and then use it there? Is that the idea? And what's stopping the user from going to a competitor store and using the app there? And Costco is paying for that?
They even admit, the employees in Costco even admit we don't have wine expertise. They have a few little placards, that's all they have. So these little placards they have in the wine section would encourage you to download this application. The employees would also know to, hey, I don't know about wines, but this app can help you. The other thing is with the databasing. The big problem for most of these other applications is people get frustrated with they search a wine, it doesn't come up. But if you use this within Costco, you're guaranteed that that wine will be listed because it's built off of Costco's database. If you took it to say specs and you search a wine there, there's a good chance that it won't pop up because it's Costco's database, not Specs' database.
As Geronimo knows, my whole life is retailing. I think it has great value to the consumer. I'm skeptical about Costco paying for it, and I think there are other people in the whole process who have more money to spend on something like this, like maybe the wine companies. I mean, I'd really have to think about it and sit down and talk with you, but I started checking some of the numbers, and they crank a lot of wine through those stores, but man, they're really running tiny margins on that stuff. I don't think they got $1.95 to give you. But I want to talk in more depth about that.
Quick comment.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
One is that I think that I like the rating. The challenge is that by the time that you scan it, I'm not going to rate it until after I drink it. So what's the reason that the person's going to come back into it? So
yeah, that's actually something that the feature is added on after we did some some observation in the wine store. Is for people that are doing wine sampling and they're looking at a wine for 30 seconds. If they have the opportunity to see the bottle, scan it, and then they can rate for their future use. And something we're looking at, a larger scale project in the future would be label recognition. So it's not so much awkward, maybe grabbing the bottle from the, grabbing the bottle and scanning it, but just getting a quick picture of it and recognizing it from there.
I mean, I would answer it a different way about maybe emailing them after the likely consumption period that they can actually rate it, because otherwise, why do we need to go into it? But it's a solvable problem. It just, if you're focusing on UI, the experience, I think that's a key factor that you really need to think about.
Okay.
And then the second quick note is, to your point, I think the retailers are an interesting way because it's the clearest path to money, but there's also the ad aggregation that you can be able to do targeting. So Spiceworks in town is a really interesting company about how they do that stuff. Opens up opportunities to be able to disintermediate the local stores to be able to then bring online experience, and then you have the brand revenue recognition that can come into it. So it's a nice way of doing it, but then it's a loss leader. So there might be a back end model that you can run to it.
Convince me that I will buy one more bottle of wine at Costco if I use this app.
Yeah. I think right now, out of all the people we talk to, and I know myself, probably a lot of you guys, you don't just buy your wine at one place. And if you really are the person that needs advice, you're going to a specialty store, maybe Whole Foods, or a particular wine store that you can have that conversation with the person. So I think although, you know, we do want to get extra bottles out of the people that are already buying and maybe they're buying elsewhere, the real opportunity is also picking up those additional customers where they don't have a wine attach rate. They aren't buying wine. They're going to Costco, they're shopping there, but they're not purchasing wine.
Yeah, if I cannot do that, and from personal experience, each time I go to Costco, there's no one that helps me to pick another wine. So I'm always picking, I would like to say, you know, like to try other wines this weekend. But then I just realize, you know, why risk it? Just grab the same wine that I like and go back. So I think this is like the huge potential in this type of customers that they go there and they want like to try something else, but it's kind of within the ones that I like. So this is where you can actually increase your revenues.
Especially with the higher end bottles, because they might be going to a specified place for that. They offer wines like everywhere from the $10 range all the way up into like the $1,500 range. I mean, if you're thinking, should I buy this here or should I buy it at a specialty store, and you're nervous about it, you're definitely going to go to the specialty store because you want that confirmation from someone that, yeah, this is a good buy. You don't want to have buyer's remorse. Yes.
I had 2 wine apps on my phone already, and I was really excited when I downloaded them, and I just found them to be really clunky, and I just stopped using them after like 2 days. I love how you described it, Pandora for wine. That's great. It's exactly what I want. I'm very concerned about your algorithm and your ability to build that, similar to the point you just made about rating it later. You don't want to put too much friction up front, but I would suggest even thinking about quizzes or intake forms you could take that maybe not just about wine, but like what other parts of people's palates you might be able to capture, what kinds of foods they like, etc. It's like you're nodding, you've already thought about that. Great. And I'm also happy to see you guys thinking about other verticals. That seems to be like a very natural extension. And I would just echo again, like as a customer, I do not want to have a Costco label. I don't want to have an app for Costco, for Whole Foods, for Sam's, for everywhere else that I go. Like as a customer, I'm going to want to be able to put those all together if possible. So I'm sure you're hopefully thinking about that a little bit.
I can answer a little bit of those questions. Like you understand that if you're a new user, like yeah, you want to take a serve at the beginning. So we have this idea of like, yeah, we're going to ask you like blueberries versus strawberries or things like that to try to figure out what kind of wines we can first recommend. And yes, we understand the algorithms are like, you know, recommendation engines. It's difficult. That's why Netflix will pay $10 million to advance the science. But, and we wouldn't, you know, go with this idea. We didn't technically prototype it. So I'll show you a prototype of a recommendation engine. So, you know, we're not all MBA students. I'm a computer scientist. And so in 24 hours, you know, I read the literature of recommendation engines, chose an engine or a algorithm that I chose to implement. So here's Robert Jackson. Some of you guys might know him. He wrote the book Wine Science. And here are 3 wines that you like. And if you look in the small text, I know it's kind of small, but there are attributes under the wines. So the Vinter's blend is black pepper, tomato, musk, oaky. The 120 is musk, oaky, apricot, and the Shiraz is musk, oaky, tobacco. So you see this musk and oaky thing happen all the time. So let's say, okay, given your past history, let me recommend some wines. So I click here for recommendations. Then you wait for internet to load. All right. So as a lot of you guys know, wine is oftentimes rated from 0 to 100 or 1 to 100. And so here are your personal ratings, right? It's not based off some expert that you might or might not trust. This is on your previous history on what your palate is like. So as you can tell, Waukegan Hills Merlot has a rating of 70, your personal rating of 70. So you can go here and read about this wine. You see it's a red wine. It's from, you can see what grape variety it's from, who produces it, what the vintage is, and stuff like that.
More importantly, though, that would be the first recommendation when users are shopping for the wine.
Yeah, and you look at the features up above. It's smoky, musky, ashy, oaky. These features that you said you liked in the past.
There's been some surveys that when women go in to buy wine, the most important thing to them is the label 50% of the time. And the reason that they often buy wines that have animals on the label is they like to see animals, and that's a statistical fact. So, given that's a large portion of your market, I would think, the women buyers, because they're mainly the ones in Costco's dragging the husbands behind. You know, how are you going to deal with that buyer one? As I go in there, I actually don't look at labels because I know what kind of wines I like. But when I'm going in, I may be thinking about a particular meal, or I'm catering something, and I want to know what wines go with what food. And then after that, I want to, if I buy a case of it, I want to remember I've got that somehow in my wine cellar at home, or where is it? Because I find that I buy wine and I forget about it. And I don't know when, and then like tonight before I come for dinner, my husband's going through wines and saying, which one we're going to have with dinner tonight? And it's like, well, which one's ready now? Which one's getting close to kind of like peak time? And he kind of took an hour going through a few of these to pick out the one. So I actually think there's other uses for what you're talking about here that's not quite the business model you have today, but I personally would pay for.
Pick my beer.
Pick my beer.
Yes.
Exactly.
We
But,
think
you know,
one of the features we have discussed and is incorporated is the individual's wine library, where you can log your wines. You can go back and see what wines you've rated and which ones you rated highly to specifically address that question. But I guess that's our time. Thank you so much for, I'm sorry,
Make
I don't
sure
know.
you do Facebook Connects. People would love
Of course.
to other story about what wine they just bought, and they're so excited to try it out.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.